Hey, this is Jesse with Create This. Today we're going to do a CPU cooler upgrade on one of the 4790k Hackintoshes that I've built. When I originally created the build video, I left the stock cooler that came with the CPU on the machine, and I got a lot of complaints about that. But it was perfectly fine at the time because I wasn't overclocking and I didn't need more cooling. But now this machine is going to be used for Oculus Rift, and I don't want it to cook itself to death. So we're going to put an H115i Corsair water cooler on it. It's a sealed unit. You buy it, you take it out of the box, you slap it on, it's pretty much done, right? So just to prove how much of a difference this makes, I have iStat menus running here in Mac OS Sierra, and you can see at idle what my CPU temperatures are. So they tend to be 30, 32 degrees, somewhere in there. And what we're going to do is we're going to run a benchmark, and that will drive up the CPU temperature. So we're going to run it right now. And as that's running, we're just going to keep an eye on the CPU temperatures here, and we're going to see what they get up to. And this is with the stock cooler. So this is no water cooling, just a heat sink and a fan blowing across the heat sink. Pretty stock, bare bones, boring stuff. 59C. This is Geekbench 4 that we're running. Looks like AES encryption got us up to 65C. 69C. 69C with SQLite. 76C. That's hot. All right, so it looks like 76C was about as hot as it got this time around. The last time I ran it, it got up to about 80. But anyway, right around anything above like 60C is pretty damn hot. And I really wouldn't want to run 60C even for very long. So let's go ahead and install the water cooler, the Corsair H115i. And then we'll come back and we'll run this benchmark again and we'll see how much cooler it runs. Oh, one more thing. If you're interested in buying one of these H115i liquid CPU coolers from Corsair, I have a link down below the video in the description, so you can check that out. I'll also have a few other parts like the case that I'm using, the ATX case that I'm using, and maybe some other things too. So go ahead and check that out. If you click on those links, I get a small commission, but it doesn't cost you a dime extra. It's just, you know, it's somehow built into the price. So it just helps me support the channel and continue making cool videos like this one.
Hi, this is Isaac with Create This, and today we are installing a new CPU cooler. It's the H115i water cooler. And the first step that we need, because we already have the fans and stuff in here, is to take off this fan and this fan. I'm going to unscrew this first and save the screws. Always save the screws. Oh, almost lost that one. Just unscrewed everything, and now we're going to follow this wire and unplug it. We're removing this fan because it's in the way and we don't really need it. You always want to have one hand on the case just in case like it shocks. Well, it can't shock you if you have one hand already on the case, but if it shocks you, the component's fried. So now we want to twist the way that the arrows go. I am taking off this fan. Okay, so I think this just pops off. No, it doesn't. Do they pop out? They pop out, okay. I knew that, guys. I knew that. I think you have to hold them out. There we go. And it requires a little bit of force. There we go. Unplug this little buddy. That's the wires that hook up to the fan. I think you have to pinch it. I don't think so. There we go. Yeah, requires a little bit of force. Now I think we need a razor blade to scrape off that heat transfer paste or thermal paste, whichever one you want to call it. So we got the razor blade and we're just going to scrape off this stuff. You'll want to try to keep it flat while you're doing this. And you want to try to get as much of it off as possible. There we go. So now we need to install this back plate. These little thingies right here, you're gonna have to adjust them whether you have an LGA 1366, that one is like that. And so if you have an LGA 1366, all of them have to be like this. If you have an LGA 115X, which can basically mean 1151 or anything like that, I don't know all of them, you're gonna put them like this. It's basically to where it fits. It makes it to where it fits in those. And so now we're gonna flip this over and put this on those. Yeah, we're just gonna slide this in there like that. And then my hand will be like this whenever we flip it back over. And I'll be screwing them in with these things. They're right here. For mine, we need these guys that have an equal length on both sides. For the LGA 2011 or the 2011-3, we need these guys that have a shorter end right there. And so we install these. Okay, so we installed the little screw thingies. We only did it that weird way because we're filming it. A normal person would stand this upright. So another thing that you should be like, don't freak out, is it's a little bit loose. Don't worry, you can wiggle it around. So the next step with my setup is to put these fans onto the water cooler, which you can't really see right now. We need to do that because it's gonna be awkward to fit them in there and you won't be able to screw these in. When you install them, you want to install the fans to where they are blowing out. Because you don't want this to be sucking in air. Even though that would be more efficient, you would have to clean out your radiator. Unless you have filters right here. I mean, if you do have filters there, you're fine. You can do whichever way. We're gonna be installing them to where they're blowing the air out. The filters on this case are down here and off it. This side, you have to take off this part of the case, but filters look like this, if you wanna know. They just slide right on. They're washable. So you know where the fan blows because of this arrow that's on the side. You can find it on one of the sides. For me, it's right here. It'll point an arrow down. That'll be the way that it blows. This is the CPU cooler that I have. You want to always keep the little plastic part that comes with it on it so that the heat transfer paste stays on it and stays nice and stuff. You want to make sure that it's not leaking whenever you first get it. So like feel if it's wet or whatever. If it's not wet, it's fine. If it is wet, you got a problem. And then we want to install these. So the side that has the arrow and the cable coming out of it, let's put those up on this. And so I'm just gonna place these here so that I can screw them in later. And you want to use the longer screws that it gives you. Try not to stab this part because you don't want it to leak. I will tighten those down later. For now, we need to unwrap this and then start screwing the stuff. So I have them all screwed in, and you want to make them snug but not super tight. Tighten them up a little bit, not a lot. Okay, so now we need the case. This is the top. I'm just showing you this for a small time. The grommets, you're gonna have to move the grommets farther out because, well, with mine you have to. It comes with the grommets in the 120mm mounting holes, and which is my fan right here. So this fits perfectly, pretty much. We have to move them out to the 140 so that it fits the bigger fans. We need to take off 2 of the back grommets because we were missing them earlier. So I just took them off of the back where the fan was, and now we have all the grommets that we need. So now we need to move the cooler into the case. I'm going to put it right here. So I'm going to unplug this. So I'm going to leave that unplugged until it is screwed in. We need to install this and this into all the grommets, screw and washer, I think, and those will screw into the cooler itself. So if you're wondering what the grommets are for, they are used to reduce the noise from the metal clanking together because stuff moves when in a computer and that causes noise. Whenever it's metal against metal. We install this again. We gotta reinstall the CPU power connector. After we do that, you may be wondering what this thing is for. It came in the box. If you have an AMD CPU, you're gonna use this instead of this one that's already on there. So now I'm going to take off this piece. And this is where you would put the AMD thing. So there are two little holes. With mine, it goes on the inside hole. Gonna install one of the thumb screws. Not gonna make it super tight yet. I just want it on there so that I can install this one over here. Man, you really have to press down. Something I didn't realize was that one, screwdriver. And this is gonna make your life a lot easier. Okay, so make these really tight. Just make it super tight, like your mom last night.
Wow. Who teaches it this stuff?
The fans connect to these buddies right here. You can make this a lot more neat if you want to. I'm going to save clearing out my wires as a side project for later. This guy that has the really thin cable goes into your CPU fan. It's the white one down there. We unplugged the other CPU fan earlier. And then this one, the very last one, goes into a hard drive connector. So mine, this one will work. And so just boom. It looks like this if you don't know what the hard drive connector thingy is. So now we have the final step. It is plugging in the USB. So it's this one. I don't really know how to describe it, but it goes right here. There'll be a little open spot, plugs in right there. And this end goes into any USB slot. There'll be a blocked pin and a missing pin, and that's how you'll know where to align them. So in this corner, that's where one is, and in this one, it's the bottom corner, like right here. So I'm gonna plug that in, goes right in, and then I think we're done. Okay, so we hooked up the power cable with an extension cord and stuff, and we're going to turn it on to see if the fans start up.
Hey, there we go.
And it's working.
It's working. Awesome. Let's boot it up and see what happens. All right, and we are back in macOS Sierra. We have the H115i Corsair liquid CPU cooler installed in the machine. You can see our CPU temperature is down around 24, 23 degrees Celsius. And let's go ahead and run our CPU benchmark and see what happens. Now remember, before the temperature used to get up to 70, the high 70s or 80 degrees Celsius. That was the top. So let's see how high it gets this time. Seeing 28 degrees Celsius, 38, 41 for a second there, 46. There you go. So that's the end of it. The highest that I saw it get was 46 degrees Celsius. So we came down from like 79 or 80 degrees Celsius down to 46. That's almost half the temperature. I think that this thing works really well. I personally own 3 of these. They were not sent to me by the company. I bought them. I like the first one so much. I run the first one on my 6700K Hackintosh. I liked it so much I bought 2 more for my 4790k Hackintoshes, and this is one of the 4790k Hackintoshes that we're looking at right now. I think they're fantastic. I think if you're going to run VR in Windows or serious gaming, or you're going to overclock, any of those reasons, I think you should probably get one of these if you've got room for it in the case. They are a little large, but it's large because it cools really, really well. If you have any comments or questions, please leave them down below the video down here. If you like this video, go ahead and give us a like button. I hope you found this interesting or useful. As always, thanks for watching, and please subscribe.